11 Sinister Midnight Shift Horrors Revealed. True stories that will haunt your sleep forever. Tara, a single mother who worked the night shift at the Evergreen Pines Motel, felt the cold weight of dread wrap around her every time the clock struck midnight. The familiar sounds of the motel, once a source of comfort, now morphed into a chilling symphony of whispers and echoes, each creak of the floorboards twisting her stomach in knots. It was almost laughable how could a simple job at a mundane motel feel like living in a horror flick. Yet every evening, as she settled her children down to sleep, the persistent feeling of unease wrapped around her like a fog creeping over a deserted road. Just urban legends, they told her, the locals who wandered through the grocery store, exchanging friendly chit-chat and conspiratorial glances. Families had vanished, they said, without a trace, leaving nothing behind but a sinister shadow over the motel. Tara, protective and weary, pushed aside the paranoia. But no matter how she shook it off, the air thickened, heavy with latent terror lurking just beyond her peripheral vision. One particularly oppressive night, as the neon light flickered above the reception desk, she swore she heard her children's names whispering from the walls. Tara, it hissed, sending shivers racing down her spine. It was the kind of fear that settled in your gut, turning your heart cold, paralyzing you in malevolent anticipation. Panic surged as she glanced around the empty lobby, her cheeks tinged with sweat. The darkness felt alive, pulsating with even greater mysteries. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Searching for a distraction, Tara wandered through the dimly lit hallways, but an unbearable chill gripped her. Shadows performed an eerie dance just out of sight, always almost there, but never fully revealed. Then she stumbled upon it. The door, partly ajar, revealed years of dust gathering on the handle. Heart pounding, she pushed against it. Inside lay remnants of a forgotten world, belongings long abandoned, holding on to ghastly secrets. A child's toy sat in the corner, its smile unsettlingly bright against the darkness, surrounded by a suffocating silence that buzzed aggressively just beneath the surface. Images of a deranged figure who had once plagued this motel flooded her mind. Could he still be watching? The hairs on the back of her neck prickled as the ghostly whispers returned, each echo drawing her attention back to the shadows. The regular guests, those once considered harmless, wore faces of strangers, masked by a sinister allure. Had they always been there, hiding something deeply malevolent? What had she overlooked in her earnestness to fit into the suburban façade? With her children safe far from the mortal grip of the motel, a chilling sense of responsibility surged through her veins. Yet her instincts screamed at her to flee, to escape this web of secrets. Every footstep she took warped into a dance with the inevitable, the looming darkness pressing closer behind her. As she reached for the door, ready to flee the twisted reality beneath the surface, the unmistakable sensation of breath brushed her neck, rancid and warm. The shadows stirred like wraiths, inching ever closer. What awaited her behind her, closing the gap between trust and unspeakable horror? Would she be ready to face the ugly truth of the world she thought she knew? Something was watching, something that thrived in the darkness, ready to pull back the veil and cast her deepest fears into the waiting void. Tara froze, heart racing like a wild drum. The warmth against her neck withdrew as quickly as it had come, leaving behind a chilling void. She pivoted, feeling the weight of shadows pressing down around her. But no one was there. Just the suffocating silence of the abandoned room, the walls seemingly tightening like a noose. She had to get out. Each echo of her footsteps felt like a death knell. The child's toy glared at her with its eerily bright smile, mocking her, reminding her of innocence lost. Suddenly, the whispers returned, growing louder, echoing her doubts. Tara, Tara, they twisted, weaving through her thoughts, threatening to break her resolve. Panic clawed at her throat. She couldn't breathe. Bursting out of the room, she skidded down the hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed, each flicker prompting shadows to loom larger. It was time to confront the horror, the truth buried in the motel's history. But was she ready to dig deep enough to unearth its secrets? Every instinct told her to escape. Yet, drawn by an unquenchable thirst for answers, she pressed on. Approaching the reception desk, she rummaged through old guest logs piled high, wondering if the names would yield a clue. Maybe she could piece together what had happened to the families who vanished, the ones they whispered about over cups of coffee in town. It felt vital, though dread coiled tightly in her stomach. Each name was just another reminder of all that had been lost to this dreadful place. Her fingers trembled as she turned pages, skimming through the faded ink. It didn't take long for a name to leap out. Rebecca Hauser. Tara's breath hitched. That name rang a bell, a young woman who disappeared years ago, just as her own children's ages matched Rebecca's children's ages back then. Chills skittered across her skin. Had fate drawn her here? Taking a deep breath, she fixed her gaze on the associated notes next to the name. Comments about odd behaviors from the guests, strange requests to stay just a little longer, and local rumors whispered in the shadows. The hairs on her arms rose. What dark deals had been struck in this very motel? A voice hummed behind her, Tara, familiar, and yet so chilling. Spinning around, she met the piercing gaze of a man lounging casually in one of the chairs. He wasn't just a guest, he reeked of familiarity, an unsettling calm lingering in the air around him. Suspicion turned to fear as his smile slackened, fading into something predatory. "Why are you looking for Rebecca?" he asked, his voice smooth but laced with menace. Her gut twisted. She's one of the missing. Missing? He chuckled softly, darkly. Or found? You think you're ready for such truths? Or maybe you want history to repeat itself? Tara's world crumbled. The shadows seemed to expand, closing in like a trap. Were these dark figures her fear manifesting, or ghosts of reality? Before she could respond, he leaned closer, whispering, "You should leave while you can." His breath was rancid, a physical weight tangling around her throat. Panic coursed through her as she spun, desperately seeking the exit, searching for an escape. The flickering lights cast wild shadows, morphing into angry faces that leered at her. She felt drawn back, no choice left but to confront what lay beneath, that gnawing truth buried in the silence of Evergreen Pines. Bracing herself, she turned to face the man. "What do you know?" she demanded, her voice shaking. Time slowed. She could feel the tension crackle in the air. This wasn't just a question. It was a challenge. A slow smile spread across his face. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough if you survive the night." And with that, his eyes glinted before he melted back into the shadows as if he were one with the dark. Tara's heart thundered. She was trapped, her spine tingling with the knowledge that the real horror wasn't just in the fading memories of the past but in what the present harbored. But could she unveil the gruesome truths before it consumed her? What lay behind those unwelcome smiles, and how deep did the motel's curse run? The truth was out there, and the night was far from over. Tara stumbled through the corridor, the oppressive shadows clinging to her like a second skin. Each flickering light overhead seemed to strobe her panic, twisting reality into a kaleidoscope of fear. She fought the urge to scream, a raw, primal sound that could echo endlessly in this desolate place. Instead, she pressed on, each heartbeat drumming a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The reception area was devoid of life, but the energy felt suffocating. In the corner, an old-fashioned clock ticked, its sound echoing like the countdown to her doom. Was it her imagination, or did the motel itself pulse with malevolence? She gripped the desk for support, desperately trying to anchor herself. The whisper was still there, creeping through her thoughts. "Tara, stop it!" She shouted at the shadows, voice trembling, but her demand dissolved into the thick air. A cold breeze brushed her shoulder, and her hair stood on end. She was not alone. Instinctively, she turned towards the hallway that led deeper into the bowels of the motel. She didn't want to go there, but the urge for discovery persisted, driving her forward against her better judgment. Each step echoed, filling the silence with dread, and she could almost hear the whispers grow fainter but still present. As she crept down the hallway, Her eyes darted nervously from under the cracked paint along the walls to the closed doors that concealed whatever secrets lingered beyond. They were all slightly ajar, ominously beckoning her closer. A room door swung open at the end of the hall, barely inching, like an invitation or a warning. "Why did I come here?" she muttered, grappling with the gravity of her situation. But the lure of the truth was stronger than her fear. She needed to know what had happened, not just for her own sanity but for the families, the lost lives echoing through this dismal motel. With a shaky breath, she peeked into the open room. Dust particles floated in the thin beam of moonlight spilling through the window. The walls were lined with faded photographs of guests long gone. Their eyes seemed to follow her, pleading for release. A chill ran down her spine as she recognized the face Rebecca Hauser, her once bright smile now hauntingly dimmed. "Help us," a voice whispered from the shadows, sweet and desperate. Tara gasped, pulling back, but not before she saw another figure in the darkness, a small child clutching a lurid toy. The same toy she had spotted earlier in the playroom. The sorrowful gaze locked onto hers, filled with an unquenchable thirst for resolution. "Help us," it begged again. Summoning all her courage, Tara stepped inside the room. The air thickened, wrapping around her tightly. She reached out to the child. "Where are you? What do you want?" Suddenly, behind her, the door slammed shut with an echoing bang that shook the walls. A frantic rattling followed, and heart pounding like a freight train, Tara whirled around. A deep, guttural laughter erupted, reverberating through the room like a discordant symphony, mingling with the helpless cries of the trapped souls that lingered. Her breath quickened, panic clawing its way up her throat. "No, no!" she cried, clawing at the door. It wouldn't budge. The laughter intensified, mocking her desperation. But then silence. The shadows pulled away from the corners of the room, revealing the man from the reception, leaning casually against the wall, his eyes gleaming with hunger. "You were warned, Tara," he said, a twisted smile stretching across his face. "Now you're part of the story." Tara shrank back, clutching her head as reality splintered around her. She couldn't let it end like this. She had to escape, to understand. She yanked at the door desperately, just as the child's voice cut through her like a blade. "We can help each other." Amidst her terror, something shifted deep inside her. As rage and fear collided, Tara glared at the man in front of her. "What have you done?" "I will find out, even if it kills me." And with that fierce declaration, she felt a burning resolve spark within her, even as the shadows closed in tighter. The man's laughter echoed into a chilling silence as the walls pulsed. A door creaked behind her, the darkness swirling invitingly, leading her further into the unknown. Each heartbeat was a countdown, a call to arms against the nightmare that lay ahead. What awaited her on the other side? The answers she sought, or an even darker fate? With a determined breath, Tara stepped towards the creaking door. It loomed larger with each inch she took, shadows swelling hungrily around her. The whispers faded, replaced by an eerie stillness, like the calm before a storm. Crossing the threshold felt like entering another realm. The room was darker, suffused with an unsettling warmth that clung to her skin. Faded wallpaper peeled away, revealing streaks of dark stains beneath. A faint flicker of light at the far end caught her eye, and immediately, her heart raced. "You can't hide from the truth," the man's voice taunted, but it came from everywhere and nowhere. Tara shut her eyes tight, willing the darkness to relent. Opening her eyes, she found herself facing a dusty mirror. Her reflection looked back, golden strands of hair mingled with smudges of dirt and fear. But something else caught her attention. Behind her, a fleeting shadow flitted across the mirror's glass, vanishing before she could turn around. She gasped, ready to scream, but the sound lodged in her throat. She needed to move. Focusing on the glimmer at the end of the room, she stepped forward. Each crackle of the wooden floor echoed in the heavy silence, and the suffocating energy pressed in closer, weighing her down like stone. As her fingers brushed against the glass, panic surged. A thumping noise reverberated from behind her. The door swung violently open, throwing bright orange light into the room, casting sidelong shadows that twisted grotesquely. Through the doorway, she glimpsed the reception area, the man standing there, arms crossed, lips curled into a cruel smile. You really think you can escape? He sneered. She shook her head, realizing he was more than just the keeper of this motel, he was its heartbeat. His power seeped from the walls, saturated the air, whispered in her ear like a biting wind. Let them go! Tara shouted, desperation giving strength to her voice. They don't belong to you. He chuckled, the sound like shards of glass scraping against bone. They never belonged to anyone, dear. This is their home now, just as it will be yours. Never! She screamed, her voice crackling like fire. Something deep within her ignited a fierce determination that lit her eyes despite the encroaching shadows. Just as she turned back to escape through the door, she was struck by a vision: Rebecca's face, twisted in pain. The room began to shift, flickering like a bad signal, and Tara stumbled back, her stomach churning. She grasped the frame of the mirror, the glass vibrating under her touch. Help us! The voices echoed again, harmonizing in torment, pricking at her mind like thorny brambles. You can save us, why? Tara cried out, tears blurring her vision. How? The walls pulsed around her, the atmosphere thick with despair. To leave, you must free us, came the soft whisper of the little child, appearing at the edge of the shadows once more, her small hand outstretched. You stand at the crossroads, Tara. Choose. Her breath hitched as she now stood at the precipice of a grave decision. To flee meant turning her back on those lost souls. To stay could lead her deeper into this nightmare. The man's laughter floated through the air, intoxicating and maddening. Think, Tara. You can honor their memories or shoulder the burden alone. What do you choose? In the face of dread, Tara felt the pull of both fear and hope. The choice simmered in the air like a thick fog obscuring the road ahead. And then the door behind her slammed shut again, echoing louder than any heartbeat. The shadows surged, closing in fast, leaving her no time to think. Now! The child's voice cried, urgency palpable. As darkness folded over her entire being, Tara's resolve solidified. I refuse to be just another victim, she declared, lunging forward. But as she plunged into the swirling dark, the laughter crescendoed. What awaited her at the end of this trial? Redemption or doom? In the stillness, the shadows whispered once more, make your choice. The darkness swallowed her whole, wrapping around Tara like a tight, suffocating shroud. Shadows rippled with a life of their own, coiling around her limbs, dragging her deeper. Panic clawed at her throat. Focus, she whispered to herself, recalling the child's urgent plea. You must free them. But the laughter danced around her, slipping through her fingers like sand. It filled her ears, escalating into a cacophony of voices, tormented souls begging for release. Their cries echoed off the walls, creating a relentless symphony of despair. Her heart raced, each beat hammering against her chest, a frantic tattoo of fear. Suddenly, the shadows split apart, revealing a flickering light ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat. Tara rushed toward it, fueled by an urgency that drowned out the terror. With every step, memories flashed before her, snippets of laughter, echoes of love, the warmth of friendships lost. Each soul entwined with hers, their fates entangled in a web woven by the sinister man. Tara reached the light, and it exploded into a soft glow, illuminating a room that felt achingly familiar. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, charged with anticipation. Spectral figures hovered near her, faces she recognized, friends, family, those who had once shared laughter under sunny skies now floated in sorrowful silence. The child stood among them, her expression a mixture of hope and despair. You must set us free, Tara, she urged, voice trembling like the flickering light. Free how? Tara breathed, struggling to keep the panic at bay. The mirror holds the truth. The child pointed. With shaking hands, Tara turned and faced the mirror. Its surface shimmered, revealing a swirling vortex of images, happy moments intertwined with dark shadows. The past and present clashed violently, memories twisting into horrific snapshots. She watched herself laughing with Rebecca, the two of them carefree, but then the scene darkened, the laughter replaced by screams. Stop! Tara yelled at the mirror, hands pressed against the cool glass. I won't let this happen. But it was too late. The mirror began to warp, the smiling faces transformed into grimaces of pain. They screamed, "Help us!" The voices melded into a chilling melody that churned in her stomach. "Don't believe it!" A mournful whisper echoed from the depths of the glass. It was Rebecca's voice, desperate and raw. "He's using your fear to trap us. You have to fight." Tara backed away as the shadows grew thicker, clawing at her, hungry for her strength. "No!" she cried, each word like a lifeline. "I won't let you take me. I won't be part of your game." And then she lunged back toward the mirror, fists clenched. If she could shatter the glass, maybe she could free the others. She slammed her hand into the surface, feeling the immense force rebound, shaking her to her core. The reflection rippled, the anguish on the souls' faces morphing into shock. Just when she felt she might lose her grip on reality, the sound of cracking echoed through the room. Every crack a heartbeat, every splinter a breath drawn from those she sought to save. Tara pushed harder, a surge of raw determination flooding through her veins. "You are not lost!" she shouted, her voice trembling with fierce conviction. With one final, desperate blow, the glass shattered, shards scattering across the floor like fallen stars. The scream of the shattered mirror filled the air, blending with the heartbreaking wails of the lost souls. And then silence. A heavy, pregnant pause hung in the air before it exploded. A swirling wave of light engulfed her as the spirits surged forward, inching closer, faces now glowing with an ethereal warmth. Tara gasped, clutching her chest. Had she freed them? But then she felt a chill running down her spine, the familiar voice resonating from the corners of the room. "You don't think it would be that easy, do you?" Darkness began to swirl again, creeping closer, the sinister man's figure materializing from the shadows, eyes gleaming with a ruthless satisfaction. Tara's heart sank. What now? She thought, the essence of despair creeping back around her. Was this truly the end of her struggle, or had she merely ignited the beginning of something far worse? Make your choice, Tara, and a new fear gripped her, a sense of impending doom surfacing once more. What awaited her now in this new battleground? Would she be lost forever in the shadows, or could she still claw her way into the light? The shadows twisted violently, crawling toward Tara as the sinister man loomed, his eyes glinting with a malicious glow. She could feel the panic take hold again, a vice tightening around her chest. "What choice?" she whispered, heart thundering in her ears. "Join them," he beckoned with an outstretched hand, a twisted smile curling his lips. "Or join me." The air crackled with tension. Tara hesitated, her mind racing. Would choosing to join the darkness mean abandoning her friends? Each face flickered through her memory, a reminder of everything she had fought for. But the creeping shadows whispered sweet nothings, promising power, freedom from fear, and escape from the suffocating despair. "What if I could save them?" a tiny voice inside her urged. "What if the darkness isn't so bad?" "Time is running out, my dear," he taunted, his voice smooth like silk yet laden with malice. "You must decide before the light fades completely." Tara's gaze darted around the room, desperate for a sign. The spectral faces of her loved ones shimmered, torn between hope and dread. The child's eyes pierced through the wailing chaos, pleading for Tara to fight against the seductive call of darkness. "You can't give in!" she cried, the weight of her voice a lifeline in the tumult. "You can save them," said the sinister man, his voice dripping with false kindness. "All you need to do is let go of your fear. Let me show you how sweet the darkness can be." A shudder coursed through her. Tara took a step back, then another, heart pounding like a war drum. She felt a rush of defiance bloom in her chest. "No!" She shook her head fiercely. "I'll never join you." His face twisted, rage flashing in his eyes. "Foolish girl. You have no idea what's truly at stake." The room trembled, shadows slashing out like whips, lashing against the walls. Tara felt the cold bite into her skin, urging her to surrender, to let go of everything she held dear. Her breath came in quick bursts. She needed to hold on. With one last look at the faces surrounding her, she turned to the child. How do I break this? She shouted over the rising panic. The light. The child pointed at the fragments of the shattered mirror scattered across the floor. You have to piece it back together. Only then will they be free. A surge of determination coursed through Tara. She dashed toward the shards, but they were already shifting, morphing into dark tendrils that sought to ensnare her. She stumbled, narrowly avoiding their grasp. Stop! She cried, scrambling to gather the shards, gripping each piece with trembling hands. I will not let you take me. The light is a lie. The sinister man roared, his shadow stretching toward her like a lunging beast. You'll see none can ever win against the darkness. Tara's heart raced as she forced the shards to align, a sliver of hope igniting within her. Each piece was a fragment of her past, a moment, a memory she had loved. As she placed the pieces together, they began to glow faintly, lighting the room with a soft shimmer. The shadows hissed, recoiling as the light grew brighter, overwhelming their darkness. No! The sinister man screeched, his twisted features contorting in terror. But just as Tara felt the swell of an impending victory, she saw the flickering faces surrounding her beginning to fade, pulling back into the darkness. Not like this! She shouted, panic clawing at her throat once more as the shadows tugged desperately at the fragments. Finish it, Tara! You can do it! The child's voice rang out unwavering, her grip tightened around the last piece. She had to believe. Had to trust. I will set you free! She shouted, pushing the final shard into place. As it clicked, a blast of light erupted through the air, blinding white and searing. The room exploded into brightness, a cacophony of relief and joy as the spirits shot forward, escaping the clutches of the sinister man. But just as quickly, the blinding light began to dim. Tara gasped, pouring her soul into the fragments, as darkness writhed, desperately clawing to pull everything back into its depths. The man's laughter echoed, chilling and victorious, as Tara felt the ground begin to crumble beneath her feet. She was losing ground. It's not over! He taunted. With a heart-stopping chill, the shadows began to creep back in. What now? Tara's voice quaked, and as the edges of her hope began to fray, she knew she was faced with a choice once more, the final, irrevocable choice. Would she stand against the tide of shadows, battling the horrors that swirled around her, or would she be drawn back into the abyss, tethered forever to the darkness? The moment stretched, Tara pinching at her sanity. Time was running out. Is this truly the end? She thought. Or only the beginning of something more horrifying than she could have ever imagined? The light dimmed, flickering like a candle in a storm, and Tara felt her resolve waver. The bright figures of her friends were slipping away, their whispers of hope fading into the chilling laughter of the sinister man. The shadows thickened, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud, pulling her downward deeper into despair. Don't let go! The child screamed, her voice a thin thread woven through the thick atmosphere of dread. You have to fight! Fight what? Tara shouted back, her thoughts tangled in the merciless grip of the darkness. Fight the very thing I might need to save them? She felt the weight of indecision crush her heart. Was it power or sacrifice that would bring her friends back? In a moment of clarity, Tara closed her eyes, summoning the memories that fueled her fight, the laughter, the bonds, the warmth of friendship. As if feeding on her determination, the light around the shards began to pulse stronger, battling back against the oppressive gloom. Focus on them! The child's voice pierced through the chaos, a beacon guiding her through the storm. Tara channeled every ounce of love and courage she had for her friends and pressed forward, pushing against the tide of shadow. But the sinister man wasn't done. Your friends are lost, girl, he sneered, his voice echoing like ice. You'll never reach them this way. They are already mine. Tara could almost feel the darkness reaching for her, slick and cold, promising to envelop her fully if she yielded. But deep within her, a ferocious spark ignited. She would not let him win. Not now. Not ever. With a sudden surge of determination, she turned back to the shards, the pieces of the shattered mirror glowing brighter under her intensity. The edges shimmered, sharp and reflective, teasing the flickers of her past. One by one, she thrust them into place, energy coursing through her as each piece clinked together. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, spreading warmth through her veins, dispelling the cold dread threatening to consume her. "I will not give up!" she shouted defiantly, her voice echoing through the channel of light that began to expand around her. But as the final piece clicked into place, the sinister man's face underwent a grotesque transformation. The rage in his eyes flickered to panic. "You think this can hold me?" he shouted, shadows swirling around him like a storm. With a final surge of light, Tara unleashed the power she had gathered. Light exploded from the mirror, engulfing the sinister man, his screams mingling with the howling winds of darkness. "You can't!" The room fell silent for a heartbeat, a stillness retracting within itself. But then, Tara felt the ground crack beneath her, fissures splitting as the darkness lashed out again with renewed fury. "No!" she roared, just as the shadows clawed at her ankles, pulling her down. The glint in the child's eyes was her last memory before the dim glow extinguished, leaving a void so complete it swallowed everything whole. And then, like a breath of warm air, Tara found herself alone, standing in an endless field of shadow. Crickets chirped in the distance, muted and far away. She looked around, heart pounding, dread curling in her stomach. Had she saved them? But as she turned, she saw a blurred figure in the distance. "Tara!" it called out, a voice she recognized too easily. She ran toward it, desperation clawing at her throat, but the figure grew fainter, more indistinct, like smoke in the wind. "Come back!" she yelled, but the shadows reformed around her, thick and suffocating. She felt the sinister man's presence linger in the air, a chilling reminder of the decision still hanging over her. Suddenly, the voices of her friends echoed from within the shadows, calling to her, their warmth a stark contrast to the cold darkness closing in. "Find us, Tara," they pleaded, their words coated in fear. "Choose, Tara," the sinister voice whispered, slithering through the air like a serpent. "Will you embrace the dark, or shall you forever live in the light as shadow?" As panic twisted her insides, she realized the truth: this was far from over. What was this dark realm? What lay beyond the shadows, and could she truly bring her friends back? In that moment, Tara understood her greatest battle was only beginning. With bated breath, she prepared to face the darkness waiting just out of sight. The air around Tara thickened, coalescing into a miasma of oppressive dread that crawled against her skin. She stood immobilized, the whispers of her friends mingling with echoes of laughter, a cruel symphony drowning out her will to fight. Each voice, each plea felt like shards of ice piercing her heart, fanning the flames of her desperation. "Come on!" she shouted into the dark, a sudden burst of defiance. "I'm not afraid of you." A shaky laugh slipped from her lips, the sound hollow, swallowed by the ever-deepening shadows. As if noticing her courage, the dark tendrils around her twisted, pulsing, preparing to consume her. "Do you feel it?" the sinister man hissed from somewhere just out of sight, his voice oozing malice. "The darkness thrives on fear, my dear. You can't change that." Tara felt a creeping sensation on her back, the presence of something lurking just beyond the edges of her vision. She blinked rapidly, heart racing, and forced herself to push forward, stepping deeper into the void, feeling the chilling void wrap tighter around her. "Focus, Tara!" she breathed, drawing on every memory of laughter, warmth, and the love of her friends. "They need me." With that thought, something sparked within her, a warmth spreading from her heart into her fingertips, igniting a flicker of light in the enveloping dark. The shadows recoiled, momentarily retreating like a wave pulled back from the shore. Tara seized the opportunity, hands outstretched, channeling her determination into a single shout, "I will find you!" But no sooner had she shouted than the shadows surged back, filling the void with a vengeful scream. Tara stumbled, falling to her knees, the ground beneath her feeling more like quicksand than earth. Panic clawed at her throat, and she squeezed her eyes shut, willing the images of her friends to return, to help guide her through this nightmare. "Not so easy!" the man taunted, his voice echoing sinisterly in her ears. With those words, the darkness twisted around her legs, grappling like grasping hands, cold and unyielding. "I'm not giving up." Tara's voice rang out louder, more resolved. She clawed her way upward, drowning out the malicious laughter with memories of shared joy, days spent in the sun, nights beneath the stars, stories spun in the warmth of friendship. Each recollection fueled her light, pushing against the abyss that threatened to consume her whole. Suddenly, a brilliant flash erupted from the depths of her mind, the shard of the mirror, pulsing and glistening with hope. "The mirror!" she gasped, clarity piercing through the fog of dread. She pictured it, the pieces clicking together, resonating with her will. But as the shadows pulsed and writhed around her, she felt the sinister man's presence draw closer. "You think a little light can save you?" he taunted, his breath against her ear sending a shiver down her spine. "Their souls are tangled in the dark now. Join them, no!" she spat defiantly, wrestling against the pull of despair. With renewed fervor, she focused, imagining the shards falling into place. The light brightened, and for a moment she stood at the center of her own shining world, illuminating the darkness around her. But doubt crept back like a slow poison. Would the light last? Suddenly, the whispers intensified, merging into a cacophony of screams. Tara pressed her hands to her ears, collapsing back against the ground, a shaking figure of resilience caught between two worlds. Would her friends be lost forever? Through the rising chaos, she caught a glimpse of something moving in the shadows, more powerful. Something desperate to seize her newfound light. The ground shook beneath her as she caught a startling silhouette, a thousand eyes glittering, a mass of movement closing in on her, eager for her surrender. As the darkness thundered ominously around her, Tara knew one thing. The time to confront her deepest fears was at hand, and she had to choose fight or flee. The real question pulsed, a heartbeat away. Could she really confront what lurked within the shadows, or would the darkness consume her entirely? Her heart raced what lay beyond the veil of night. Tara's breath hitched in her throat as the silhouette approached, its myriad eyes glimmering like distant stars, reflecting an unsettling hunger. She felt the weight of despair creeping back in, threatening to snuff out the fragile light she had fought so hard to spark. The tendrils of shadow twisted around her, coiling tighter, almost mocking her flicker of hope. "I wouldn't let you take me!" she screamed, voice raw and desperate. She focused on that shard of light, channeling every ounce of love she had for her friends. With each heartbeat, the image grew clearer, the mirror, whole and powerful, a beacon against the dark. The sinister man cackled, a sound that clawed at her sanity. "You think you can escape? This place feeds on your weakness." Suddenly, the air shifted, and with it came the smell of decay, turning her stomach. Tara stumbled backwards, her heart drumming a rapid beat as the shadows lunged, a tide of darkness swelling up. But instead of succumbing, she planted her feet, dug her nails into the ground as her memories flared like a wildfire. With every cherished laughter and warm embrace, she forged a shield of light. "They need me!" she cried again, clenching her fists. The light pulsed stronger, forcing back the shadows that shrieked in protest. But as the brilliance erupted around her like fireworks, disturbing images flooded her mind, faces of her friends writhing in darkness, their screams echoing distantly. "No, no!" Tara shook her head violently. "I wouldn't give in!" The sinister man emerged from the shadows, his figure jagged and twisted, a grotesque mockery of humanity. "You can't save them, Tara! They belong to the void now!" Shrieks burst forth from the depths of the dark, collective screams filled with anguish, clawing at the edges of her mind. The shadows writhed violently, boiling like a dark ocean. Tara's vision blurred, the light flickering dangerously. In that moment, doubt gnawed at her heart. What if it was true? What if she was too late? Concentrating hard, she let out a primal roar, summoning the memories of their happiest times. It resonated through her, a melody against the chaos. "I will bring you back!" The shimmering light around her blazed fiercely, illuminating the creeping tendrils, forcing them into retreat. But as light rode high, she felt the rage of the shadows surging again. They crashed against her, trying to extinguish her light. Pain shot through her as tendrils of cold gripped her senses, dragging her down, pulling her into the dark abyss. she gasped, the sensation of icy fingers closing around her throat, squeezing tighter. Join them, sweet Tara, the man whispered, his breath like a freezing wind. Let go. Fire ignited in her chest, a fierce defiance. No! She screamed once more, the echoes of her friend's laughter reaching her from the precipice of despair. I refuse to let go. Her resolve surged, and she focused on the mirror. It pulsed with energy, beckoning her to embrace it. But just as she felt herself teetering on the edge of victory, darkness roared. More bodies emerged from the shadows, all those she thought lost. Their faces twisted in fear, their mouths moving, crying out, but no sound emerged. Frantically, Tara reached out, their hands just beyond grasp, as they were pulled back into the void. Tara's breath hitched, panic swelling within her. What if they were already consumed? Did she even stand a chance? The very walls felt alive, vibrating with a sinister energy. As the dark mass swirled, rising like a storm, Tara braced for impact. Then, above the cacophony, she heard a single voice, clear and powerful. Tara! We're still here. Fight for us. Her heart ignited anew. This was her chance. In one thunderous moment, she felt warmth radiate through her. Her friends were at the brink, she couldn't lose them. With a defiant scream, Tara lunged into the shadows, the glow of the mirror enveloping her as she plunged deeper into darkness, not knowing what awaited her. What if the light was just another illusion? What if she was only leading herself and them into a deeper trap? As she plunged forward, everything around her warped, and behind her, the darkness roared, aching to reclaim its prize. Where was the mirror? Could her light really withstand the pull of despair? As she pressed on, only one question remained vivid in her mind. Would she emerge from the dark, or would the shadows become her new home? Tara's heart raced against the encroaching darkness as she charged deeper into the shadows, the screams of her friends echoing with every pounding beat. The weight of despair pushed down on her, suffocating, but she held on tighter to the flickering light inside her, her connection to them. Stay with me, she shouted, desperation gripping her voice. I'll find you. Ignoring the sinister man's taunting laughter, she pressed forward, feeling the shadows curling around her ankles, threatening to drag her backward. Then, out of the haze emerged a glimmering light. It pulsed, inviting, warmer than anything she had ever felt. Tara knew instantly it was the essence of the mirror, fragmented yet powerful, ready to be restored. Fight through, she urged herself, emotions swelling within like a volatile storm. For them. With a final burst of energy, Tara focused on the shards of the mirror that swirled around her like meteors in a cosmic battle. She remembered their laughter, the warmth of their hugs, the memories overflowing with love. Each recollection lit a fire within her, bringing clarity, reaching deep into the shadows. Together, she imagined the pieces nestled snugly back together, shining brighter with each hope rekindled. The shadows shrieked, twisting violently, trying to snuff out her burgeoning light. She could feel the sinister man lurking just out of sight, every ounce of her being screamed at her not to give in, to push back. You will not take them! Tara bellowed defiantly, her voice rising against the onslaught. The darkness trembled, hesitating under the weight of her resolve. Tara grabbed at the fragments, grasping them one by one as they glimmered into place around her. Together we can do this! She shouted into the void, knowing that her determination resonated with their trapped souls. As the last shard clicked into place, the assembled mirror blazed with a brilliant light, almost blinding, cascading waves of warmth and power radiating outward like ripples in a pond. The sinister man howled in outrage, his form beginning to shift and twist, unraveling in the brightness. No! He couldn't mask the fear in his voice as the light enveloped him, consuming his darkness, unraveling his grasp on Tara. His expression morphed from mockery to sheer panic. The power that once bound them all grew weak, brittle against the truth, now so close. Come to me! Tara cried. We can break free together. From within the shadows she saw them, their faces forming from the vapor of despair, appearing tethered to her heart. Tara, they whispered, their voices weaving a hymn of hope. They will all be freed, Tara promised. A surge of warmth bloomed in her chest, igniting her spirits. The light sliced through the shadows, revealing the path toward the specters of her lost friends. With newfound strength, she moved toward them, the shadows shrieking and recoiling, desperate to reclaim their hold. "Please come," she beckoned. "We can escape this." Searing light shot forth, illuminating every corner, every dark crevice, unraveling the sinister threads binding her friends. Each soul reached toward her, radiating love and support, fueled by her unwavering belief in their unity. As the last specter emerged from the darkness, Tara felt their energy clash against the sinister man, scattering him like smoke in the wind. "You are nothing without fear," he screamed, but the truth rang clear. His grip on them was broken. Tara's friends formed around her, their warmth washing over her, and in that moment they were whole again. They stepped through the barriers of despair and into the light, laughter echoing like music as they hugged tightly, relief flooding over them. "We did it!" one of them exclaimed, tears of joy shimmering in their eyes. "We're free!" Tara looked around, the oppressive shadows melting away, revealing the motel's true form, a crumbling shell of a place, every lingering sense of dread evaporating into the ether. The weight of fear lifted, leaving behind an echo of hope. The sinister man, now barely a memory, vanished in a shroud of darkness, leaving them unscathed. As they stepped into the soft dawn light, Tara took a deep breath, filling her lungs with a warmth she thought lost forever. "We are safe," she whispered to herself, staring at her friends, gathering them close one last time. "None of this was easy," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "But we faced the dark together, and found the strength within us. No more shadows." With a nod of agreement, they turned away from what had once been a sight of horror. Newly forged bonds illuminated a path forward, one filled with light, laughter, and everything they held dear. As they walked together, Tara's spirit soared. Fear no longer had a hold on her life. Freedom awaited them on the horizon, and with her dear friends by her side, she felt an undeniable sense of hope. And just as they ventured into a new dawn, she knew her battle against fear would forever shape her future, because sometimes the most powerful light comes from confronting darkness head-on. Don't let this journey end here. You need to subscribe now, so you never miss out on the next exclusive stories that will send chills down your spine. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the fire alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how darkness can be defeated. Every action matters, show your support, and keep the stories flowing.